A person who was keeping vigil in prayer and was not asleep had a spiritual vision. It was as though she saw an unfathomably vast palace where there were countless figures dressed in white and shining clothes, each of whom seemed to have his or her own seat. In the principal part of the palace there was a judgment seat on which the sun seemed to sit. The rays that came from the sun were unfathomably long, deep, and wide. Next to this seat stood a maiden with a precious crown on her head, and all the servants of the sun that sat on the seat praised him with hymns and songs. There appeared then an Ethiopian, terrible in aspect and bearing, as though full of envy and burning with great anger. He cried out and said, "O just judge, render judgment on this soul for me and hear his works. Little remains of his life. Allow me to punish the body along with the soul until their separation from each other." After he had said this, it seemed to me that there stood near the seat one like a knight in arms, pure and wise in his words and modest in his bearing. He said, "O judge, see, here are the good works that he has done up to this hour." The voice of the son seated on the seat was immediately heard. "There is more vice than virtue here, and it is not just that vice should be joined to the summit of virtue." The Ethiopian answered, "Then it is just for this soul to be joined to me, for while he has some vice in himself, there is total wickedness in me." The knight answered, "God's mercy accompanies every person until death, until the very last moment, and then comes the judgment. Soul and body are still joined together in the man of whom we speak, and he still has the power of discernment." The Ethiopian answered, "Scripture, which cannot lie, says, 'You shall love God above all things and your neighbor as yourself.' Look how this man did all his works from fear and not from love, as he ought. You will find that all the sins he confessed were confessed with little contrition. So he deserves hell, because he failed to deserve the kingdom of heaven. Thus his sins are made known here in the presence of divine justice, because he has never until now felt any contrition due to divine love for the sins he has committed." The knight answered, he surely hoped to have true contrition, and believed he would have it before death. The Ethiopian replied, "You have collected every good deed he has ever done, and you know all his words and thoughts for the salvation of his soul. The whole lot of them cannot be compared to the grace of contrition arising from divine love along with holy faith and hope, and they can hardly obliterate his sins. God's eternal justice ordains that no sinner may enter heaven without perfect contrition. It is therefore impossible that God should render a judgment against his eternally foreknown ordinance. This soul is therefore to be sentenced to hell and joined to me for eternal punishment." On these words the knight fell silent and gave no answer. Then countless demons appeared, flying off like sparks from a hot fire and crying out with one voice, to him who sat like the sun on the judgment seat, they said, "We know that you are one God in three persons without beginning or end. There is no other God than you. You are love itself along with mercy and justice. You existed in yourself from the beginning without loss or change, as is proper to God. Outside of you is nothing, and nothing outside of you has any joy. Your love created the angels from no other matter than from your divine power. You acted as mercy dictated. However, when we became inflamed with inner pride, envy, and greed, your justice-loving charity cast us together with our burning malice out of heaven into the unfathomable and shadowy abyss that is now called hell. This is what your charity did then. Your charity even now cannot be separated from justice in your judgments, whether he is fulfilled according to mercy or according to equity. We will go even further. If the one whom you love more than anyone, I mean, if the sinless Virgin who begot you had sinned mortally and had died without godly contrition, your love for justice is such that her soul would never have reached heaven, but would have been with us in hell. So, Judge, why do you not sentence this soul to us, so that we may punish him according to his works?" After this a trumpet-like sound was heard, at which those who heard it fell silent, And immediately a voice spoke and said, "Be silent, all of you angels and souls and demons, and hear what God's mother has to say." Then the Virgin herself appeared before the judgment seat, and it looked as though she were hiding some large objects beneath her mantle. She said, "You enemies, you attack mercy, and you love justice, but without charity. Though these good works of this soul may be deficient and, for that reason, he should not enter heaven, yet look what I have beneath my mantle.